The COVID numbers are rising, as you know, and the new restrictions are in place. And we know that second wave seems to be coming, and many doctors have said that it is definitely coming. And sun is getting shorter, weather is getting colder, and we're feeling a lot of discomfort and uncertainties. What I want what I want you to know through today's message is that God is the true strength of your life. And it is precisely time like this where you and I go deeper in relationship with God. That you and I will, whether this is a testing ground, and this is the training camp where our faith it grows and it becomes stronger, or it may falter because we have been leaning on idols in worship, like that I need to see people, or you realize that you really attended worship because your friends were there. And a lot of us were just coming to church maybe because our parents go to Miral Church and the ride was there and the convenience or the watchful eyes were there. So here we are today, really left with I and thou, my relationship with God and me, because the community, the actual gathering of the community has been taken away and the actual pulpit has been taken away. So it really gets us to question, what was my worship? And when was the last time I really worshiped God? And what am I doing here today? I'm not a green thumb, but I have these random knowledge of gardening and farming. And one of the things that I've learned in the past is that a lot of the root plants, including tomatoes, but never mind tomatoes, but things like radish, in order to make them grow stronger and bigger and to establish stability is to reduce watering them. And if there has been a rain, then you have to delay watering the radish so that the radish will have desire to go deeper into the ground in search of water. And in turn, that provides stability and growth in the radish that allows it to flourish even more above the ground level. I shared with you, I don't know, maybe a few years ago, that the word radical comes from radish, the deeply rootedness of unshakable nature of the word radical. It comes from the root plant. And if our faith is to be radical today, to have stability, we must be comfortable with reduced blessings, delays in getting what we want, and not having the things that we are used to and things that were readily available to us. For in the reduction, in the delay, and in the discomfort, God shapes our heart and reorganizes our priorities and reorganizes our motivation for why we live our life and why we have our relationship with God. The story of Hannah today is really precisely that, discomfort of Hannah and delay in getting what she really wants, which is to have a child. She is barren and she doesn't have a child, and yet God uses that discomfort and deficiency. Not that Hannah herself is deficient because she's a woman and she can't bear a child, but deficiency in a sense that she wants to have a child, but there's deficiency in having a child. So there's a helplessness and discomfort and delay in getting what she wants. But God uses her helplessness and delay to reorganize her heart so that ultimately in the end, God can bring transformation to Israel through having Samuel, who is a prophet and who will bring in the new era, who will transition Israel into a time of judges to time of monarchy. So when we feel the discomfort, deficiencies and delays in getting what we want, this is a time for us to really get down on our knees and look at the story of Hannah and pray and learn from her story. So Samuel, the book of Samuel is, there's a big shift, and it describes how that big shift of being living in a time of judges to transitioning into a time of monarchy. And just like in the story of Ruth, God uses a woman, Hannah, to bring about the transformation and transition in Israel. But let's get into the story of Hannah and how God uses her and her condition to bring transformation in the entire Israel. As I mentioned to you, Hannah is helpless and she is deficient of a child, and there's nothing she can do to have a child. And Hannah is the first wife of Elkanah, who's a loving man, and he seems to be fairly wealthy as well. But there's one thing that she lacks, and that is that she does not have a kid. And when you are barren, you can't have a baby, there's a great cultural stigma during that time. One is that you can't pass on the family wealth to the next generation. And maybe that is happening because God has cursed you and God is not blessing you because you're inferior. So there are all these eyes that are looking upon her, and they've already formed opinion of her, whether she goes to the market, whether she's walking out to go shopping. Everyone is looking at her and saying, oh, poor Hannah, what did she do wrong? In addition to that, I'm guessing that Elkanah married a second wife, Peninnah, so that somebody would bear him children, and his legacy, a material legacy, will continue. The issue with Peninnah in the picture is that she was very fertile. She had many kids. And as a second wife, I guess she felt some sort of insecurity. And she knew that Elkanah loved Hannah despite the fact, loved Hannah more than her, despite the fact that she did not have a baby. So every time she bore a child or son or daughter, that became a source of taunting. And she made fun of, and she made sure that Peninnah had what it takes to be the next. And that drove Hannah crazy and just drove a stake into her heart. What made the matter even worse is that Peninnah really stuck it to Hannah when it was an annual festival where they went down to Shiloh to worship God. And it was during that time Peninnah would gather all of her children, dress them up, and go into the tabernacle, the place of worship, and just really flaunt the fact that the Lord has blessed her, but not Hannah. Elkanah was a loving husband, as I mentioned, but instead of praying for Hannah, he felt slighted that Hannah really wanted children. And his comment was, am I not worth more than 10 sons to you? So Elkanah was saying, I'm doing all of these things to you. I'm being good to you. I love you more than, Peninnah. I should be worth more than what you really want, which is children. So this made Hannah just really lose it. And she didn't know what to do. She was helpless, and God was not helping her, and there was no comfort at sight. She comes to the tabernacle and she's praying. But as she was praying, her lips were moving, but the words were not coming out. Eli was a priest / judge at the time. But because he was not walking faithfully with God, he had dull vision, as Bruce Walkie said, of what was really happening to Hannah. That Hannah was so struck with sorrow and grief that she was praying to God. But when Eli saw that, he said, she must be drunk. And he tells her, stop drinking, woman. Stop drinking your beer and your wine. And Hannah at this point explains, I'm not drunk. I'm pouring out my words, my pain, and my life to God so that he will do something about it. And after Eli hearing the explanation, he blessed her, and Hannah felt comforted, and she left. And shortly after that, she was conceived with Samuel. But in her prayer, Hannah said to the Lord, if you give me a child, I will dedicate him to you for the rest of his life. She was dedicating Samuel, or the child that she might bear, as a next Nazirite, just like Samson, and be dedicated in service of God. Peninnah, Elkanah, and Eli, everywhere she turned, all she faced were barriers. And they all brought discomfort and reminded her that the Lord is delaying what she truly wanted. Now the question is, when life is difficult and when we are experiencing severe deficiency and delays in getting them, what can God do with that? What is the reason behind the delay and discomfort? And this is a question that I have as I think about our church and I think about our time today as we go through this pandemic. What is the reason for this discomfort? What good can come of it? And what is the good thing that can come out of delays of vaccine and delays of people getting better and delays of everything fully opening up so that we can just live our life, go shopping, eat with our friends, and go out with our friends, and do all the activities, and go to vacations, and just have the life that we are used to having. But what about those of us who have graduated this year but can't get a job? And all the things that you have planned are being delayed, and you're not sure when things will improve. When we look at the story of Hannah, we see that God uses deficiency and delay to really deepen her faith so that she experiences stability and true strength that God has. Not the strength that comes from doing whatever we want and getting whatever we like and experiencing the things that we're used to experiencing, like jobs or money, but true strength that comes from the Lord. First thing that I want us to notice is that she made all the barriers in her life, the rubber stoppers of her life, and she made them fluid. For she says that I'm pouring out my words to God. I'm pouring out my life to God. She is taking all the barriers and the pain, like really that all the things that have solidified over the years and built up like sediments over and over again and just really barricaded her life. She is melting all of it down by making them, turning them into prayer. Question is, when you experience all these anxieties and delays and discomfort, what do you do with all that solid, massive angst? Do you just build upon it? Do you just wait, hope that one day things will get better? Or have you ever thought about making them liquid and make them flow out of you and let it go out of you to the Lord? By your words, you're just letting your anxieties and concerns flow out to God. As Hannah began to do that, second thing I want you to realize is that God reorganized her heart. She prayed and prayed, and I'm sure in the beginning she said things like, Peninnah is a jerk. And I want to show her that I'm every bit as good as her. I want to dress up my kids in better clothes than Penina's kids. And I will show her that I will give my kids all the best things. And I will use my favor that I have with Elkanah, my husband, who loves me more than Penina, to really show her that now the power and true strength is back to me. You will get nothing and I will get everything. Lord, make that happen. And I'm guessing this because in Psalms, that's what we see. People being just really raw and letting their emotions just simply flow out. Nothing is filtered and nothing is cleaned up. They just say what is on their heart. But over time, God reorganized Hannah's heart, and her faith was getting deeper into the ground. And there was some stability that she was experiencing, where she says, Lord, in ESV, I will lend my son to you for the rest of his life. It's not, I don't want a kid for revenge. I don't want a kid for a day in the sun where I get my glory against Penina. I don't want to have a child so that I can flaunt and show Penina what I'm made of. But I will make him, I will dedicate him for you, that you will have his way with him. See, when we want things, usually, and when there's a delay, and that delay is prolonged, God uses that to deepen our faith. Let's say initially you just really stressed about not having a job. You're just stressed about not going out, and you're just stressed about this and that. But as you liquefy your concerns to God, and as you bring it over and over and over again, just like water washing over a rock, it shapes your heart. It reorganizes your heart so that what you want is not just for yourself, but that you are willing to put that blessing into God's hands and make you not only be blessed yourself, but be a blessing to others. As God made Hannah's life into liquid and he reorganized her heart, Hannah witnessed the true strength comes from God. Hannah became closer and closer to God through her needs and through the delays and through her discomfort. Penina, on the other hand, she got her blessings right up in the front. But her blessings made her godless. For she taunted Hannah when she was down, when she was discouraged. And Bible is not saying it, but it's clear through different stories that the taunting of Penina is utterly godlessness. So the blessing that she had turned her godless, but lack of blessing in Hannah's life made her godly. True strength is not getting what others have or getting what you want. The true strength is to let God hone the gifts and desire so that you can be a blessing to others. I remember a time when Bridgeway was slowly growing. And I wish to God that we would grow just a little bit faster. And God has a sense of humor and he has his sovereignty and he does what he wills. So the joke on me was that he made the church grow little by little. The numbers were growing. But the way that he shaped me, and the way that he got me to grow, is to keep the budget where it was. People, numerically, the numbers of people are growing. But at the same time, the quantitative, the things that you can measure, like the budget, was stationary, and sometimes it went down. So now what? We have more mouths to feed, but always the same amount of food. And I wonder, God, what are we going to do? We have more people. We need programs. We need to do this. And every time we go to retreat, we have more people and we need to allot more budget to these things. But money is either going down or not changing. But it was during this time that God got me to pray. And if there was a time, yeah. And it was during this time where I realized that what we need to focus during this time is not some fancy programs that needs a lot of seed money and a lot of resources and for us to be a wealthy church. But this is a time where we grow as disciples through worship and spiritual formation. I realized that at this time that Christians didn't know how to give, that especially the younger generation coming up, they didn't know how to give and they didn't know how to become part of a faith community through generosity. So these are some of the things that I wanted to inform people, not as to grow our budget, but as piece of discipleship. And it really gave me courage to teach about finance and have this purity of heart, if you will, and just sort of clarity in mind to say, you need to give what you have to the community, for that's God's blessing to you. And the true strength is that you use what God has given to you for blessing of others. So we focused on things like discipleship pieces and then worship pieces like Life Devo, life groups, and now we have Life Devo Zoom and accountability partners and one-on-one discipleship, the things that allow us to really connect with others and grow and reach out to our city and people around us. God does not grow his people exponentially, but slowly. God loves delay. Even when you look at an egg and the way that it hatches, the chicken egg typically hatches around human body temperature. And of course, farmers have figured out that if you raise the temperature just a little bit, not a lot, because then you have a hard-boiled egg, but if you just raise it a little bit more, that eggs will hatch faster. So in the beginning, when incubator and the hens were removed and you put these eggs in a machine to make them hatch, farmers have set the temperature a little bit higher. And what they realized was that, yes, eggs do hatch faster and there is some efficiency. But what they've also realized was that with faster growth, they experience abnormality of the chicks that were being hatched. And some of the eggs didn't even hatch at all. You can't speed up your life. You can't speed up the blessings that God has in store for you. You must go at his speed so that you learn to pray, so that you can make your life into a fluid prayer unto God. Grow slowly. Go through this time slowly in prayer so that God can reorganize your heart, your motivations, and your priorities in your life. If you want your faith to go in deep and have stability regardless of what is happening in the world, that you are experiencing, you're hiding under the rock of God. And if you really want to hatch and have experienced new life that God has given to you, let God reorganize your motivation in your life. Be comfortable with discomforts and delays. Surrender them to God. Pray. Don't think of prayer as an added activity into your life, but see it as like a hen setting on an egg. That is a daily thing that is required to give you life so that you may hatch and you may experience the real blessing and the true strength that God has for you. True strength is not in getting your job. True strength in your life is not getting all the blessings right away here and now and all the needs are being met today. So ask yourself, why do you want your blessings? Why do you ask? Why are we buying all these hand sanitizers and masks? And why are we complaining about and have all this stress about making through COVID in one piece? What will you do with your life once you go through this pandemic? What will you do with the wealth that you have gained once you get your job? What will you do with the marriage and the relationship that you have once the Lord gives them to you as a blessing? You need to answer that. And for you to answer that, you need to go through this slowly in prayer. In my own testimony, I have found that not getting something is not as troublesome as not using that gift as a blessing to others. When I have made the gifts an idol and a self-fulfilling tool, those were the times that I've experienced greater trouble than not having it. Sometimes I wish to God that some of the blessings that I have were delayed or had wisdom to wield it properly. What has God given to you already? And how, in what way have you turned that into a tool that make you godless, like Penina did? I really want to encourage you today simply to pray. Turn things into prayer. And if you don't know how to pray, let me just plug in Live Devo. This week, I want to focus on practicing how to pray and just give you tips on how you can whet your appetite for prayer. So I'm not teaching you like just this is what you need to do, but this is how you can increase your appetite for prayer and shape your heart and reorganize your heart for prayer. God used Hannah's helplessness and deficiency and delays so that he can reorganize her heart and bring transformation to Israel. Imagine if Hannah used Samuel, the new Nazarite prophet, as a tool of revenge. Then God, humanly speaking, God could not have brought transition of King David into Israel's history, and which in turn brought the kingship of Jesus Christ. God used one single feeble woman and all of her pains and needs and all the barriers that she experienced to usher in not only monarchy, but eternal monarchy of Jesus Christ.